Hey everybody, here we are, part 2. And then part 2 of this Beyond the Buzz, Start Your Emerging Technology Preparedness here at NYCE, we're going to focus on AI and machine learning. You mentioned the possibility of using blockchain for KYC?
Yeah, I mean, so if you think about it right now, we have so many people, as I've been getting into this topic, we have so many people that have their personal data that they're sending to banks, right? So Kristen, for example, has her passport in so many different countries, right? And so when you think about, sending that data through, and you think about that sitting in a database, I would be worried, right? And so I see a lot of fintechs coming in and saying, we're going to build a database, your information is going to be housed there, and from a security perspective, I worry about that. And so when you think about a blockchain, it's a lot more secure, there's a hash attached, and you can send that data securely to other parties. And so I think it's a really good technology for KYC.
And one of the things that I really picked up from your discussion was you can go fishing in a data lake with blockchain?
The example that we spoke about was a fisherman, a single fisherman in Indonesia, right, who's catching fish that are eventually going to wind up on your dinner plate here in New York, right? And the question is, how can you keep track at every step along the way? Why is that important? Well, to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that it's been kept cold, to make sure that you know where it came from, right? A little bit like money is that way, right? So is fish. And so blockchain represents a place where you can store information in a shared space, no matter what systems you're using. Everybody can agree that it's true, everybody can agree that it's immutable, and you can follow that information together with what it's tracking, for example, a piece of fish that's traveling to your dinner plate.
Treasury Whisperer, one of the things you mentioned was a payments directory and how blockchain can help with a payments directory. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Oh, absolutely. So NYCE is actually working on this collaborative effort. They're at a proof of concept stage at this point where they're looking at having a payment directory that will have a number of financial institutions that are sourcing the data from their customers. So think B2B in this case, being able to house information in this blockchain as to how companies want to get paid. So they're routing information, let's say for the bank account, for a wire, for an ACH, maybe for a card payment, even the old historical check. There could be a street address that's the viable address. The whole idea behind this is so that people, when they're initiating payments, can have that source of truth through that payment directory and not actually have to start collecting all of that routing information. It'll be in the directory, and all you really need to know is who you're paying. You don't no longer need all of that sensitive data that more and more we're finding treasurers do not want in their ERPs or TMS systems.
Came up building a team, which is a really big important concept because we've got a video that's going to talk about careers in treasury. Now, when it came to you and building a team with all of these new things and considerations in tech and treasury, what are your recommendations when it comes to building that team?
Yeah, so we thought about the team a little bit different from your traditional functional team or your traditional technology team. There's a huge place for those two teams, but this team sat in the middle, and there really was a set of folks that, one, thought about problems differently. They were in many ways data experts, so they'd either come from data roles, curious about data, curious about new technology. And I'd say the last one is within that group, we had some folks that were confident enough to be challengers. So folks that would go in and ask, why are you doing the process that way? Have you thought about it this way? They look at repetitive threads of data and gain insight out of that. So really hiring a talent pool that's different from how we might have hired a few years ago, where you think about, I'm going to hire the treasury analyst who started as a bank admin person and maybe worked in a cash desk and then worked on forecasting. Those people need to complement one another, but this digital role is one that I think is an accelerator for future treasuries.
I really like that, and I love the comment the Treasury Whisperer said too. In the 80s, I know it was, you better check yourself, but he said now you need to disrupt yourself.
That's right. You have to disrupt yourself. I think that's so big in this new kind of generation with all the technology and the changing workforce. You have this clash of cultures in the workforce, right? And I think you have to think about disrupting yourself, and Otherwise, you'll be disrupted.
I've just disrupted myself.
This session was incredible. There was a lot of discussion, especially on what it means to be able to have uses with blockchain, what it means to have AI. But what I really got the most out of it was the building of the team. In fact, one of the best quotes was from the Treasury Whisperer. It said, "You need to disrupt yourself." And folks, I think all of you out there need to be thinking about that. As we see technology changing, as we see our industry changing, you better be willing and ready to disrupt yourself to be able to keep up with those changes and make the most out of it. If you got any questions or comments, put them down below or send me a message. Look forward to seeing you in future videos.